Okay. You're on.
You're on.
Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Pflugerville. Today we're talking about joy. And our daily work this morning was about joy. This Sunday in Advent is about joy. So I thought maybe we should talk about joy. Do you think that's a good idea? Now, joy is a very, very interesting word, and it has a very, very similar conversation to the word bliss. And bliss is an idea, and joy is an idea that's beyond the human consciousness. Okay, it really is. Happiness, enthusiasm, that's all generated from external. In other words, if you're nice to me, I'm happy. And if I get enough food that I really like, I'm happy. If people support me, I'm happy. But what is it that really builds the soul within us is the word joy. So we're going to work on that this morning. And happiness comes and goes. See, once the outside stimulus stops, it feels lonely. Anybody familiar with a lot of the ideas of very, very successful people reach a point where they're depressed. And why does that occur? Because the outside stimulus isn't enough to keep the soul happy, keep the soul content. So joy is a word that comes from within. Joy is divine. And I just happened to look up, and I found this. Because what I did, anybody familiar with Google? So I decided, so the word for today was cultivating joy. So I decided to look it up and ran into Deepak Chopra. Okay? And Deepak Chopra showed 5 ways to cultivate more joy in your life, which is what we're going to talk about. Now, he defines joy as divine. It's from divinity. The Advent booklet from Unity has an interesting definition. And again, looking up definitions gets very, very interesting. So the definition here is this: joy is a state of mind and an orientation of the heart. So it's heart-based, okay? And it has to be an energy from the heart, not from the brain, not from the mind. So it is a settled state of contentment. Interesting, you see that settled state of contentment. Remember last week we started using the words, it's okay, it's okay. Anytime something happens, it's always for a reason. It's actually perfect, and it's a gift from Spirit saying, hey, here's something to look at. So it's okay. It's a learning lesson. I don't like it, but I will listen to it. Okay? And so it's okay. So it's a settled state of contentment. Now, anybody stop and think about that? If I'm not content, usually there's something going on. So some of the great ideas in the world that came from somebody's lack of contentment, knowing that it wasn't full. In other words, they weren't full, and they had more to do in life. Where have some of the great breakthroughs come from? Just simple. Do you realize how many people had dreams, and in the dream was an answer to something they were trying to do? How many things have been brought through because somebody had a dream and kept working toward the dream? So where do dreams come from? See, they don't come from the outside. They come from the inside. They are created, or if I can use the term, initiated by the Spirit within. And if you use the word inspire is always of the Spirit. Okay. So it goes on, and then it says it is a settled state of contentment, confidence, and hope. And remember, hope is looking for things not yet seen. Okay? So it's a belief that everything's okay. And it's an inner contentment. Another word is compassion. Understanding that other people have issues. Anybody familiar with that? Mm-hmm. Isn't it interesting that somebody's dealing with the same thing that you are? Okay, it's always fascinating. It's amazing to me this morning. It's like, I woke up and things started happening. Anybody familiar with happening? Mm-hmm. And I got here and everybody was the same way. Some of you had a hard time getting out of the front door this morning, probably. There were issues, and for some reason, there's an energy of discontent. Okay, even the cotton picking regulator on the heater, when we came in, it wouldn't work. So we had to change the batteries. Thank God we know how to change the batteries, right? Okay? So the idea is things happen. And happiness and enthusiasm and all the things we're looking for in the world come from outside stimulus rather than inside stimulus. So the word joy is an inner contentment, compassion, and a belief that life is okay. Got it? So it's a very, very interesting thing. So if joy is a spiritually generated thing, how do I start working on joy? Okay? Anybody agree that they're going to stop and think about it? How many things are there to get excited about in today's world? Okay? We go to a movie to get feel good. Somebody telling us something. Okay? I'm reminded of all the. Anybody understand how many circuses and how many parks there are? I mean, I'm set like Disney World and all that. Anybody been to Disney World? Yeah. Okay? And it's full of stuff to keep you going. Okay? And it's amazing to me because when we were down there, people would stand in line for hours for the thrill of riding on this ride. Why? Okay? See, understanding that we keep looking for. Maybe this is the answer that's going to make me feel good, and I'll be happy if this occurs. So it's always something from outside. So happiness is the reason, the lack of happiness or happiness. So happiness is the yin and yang, which I think Randy's going to be talking about next month. Okay? That's a plug.
Thank you. I'll probably need it.
So there's a balance in life, and the balance of life is between the spiritual and the material. And the world is focused on the material. Yes, we measure IQs, we measure success, we measure money, we measure all these things. And if I do this, then I'm going to be happy. What happens to people who get there and are not happy? They spend all this time and all this effort proving how great they were, and then they don't feel good about it. And that's history. You know, we don't need to go into that. But the idea is, how do I accomplish joy? If joy is really what my soul is looking for, how do I get it? And Valerie covered it very well in her meditation, by the way. Okay? So I hope you were taking it in. And what's interesting about it is, the more we hear it, because the word joy is outside of the daily cultural impulses that we get. So, let's look at it. Okay? Now, I'm working with Deepak Chopra's ideas, okay? And the idea of cultivating. Now, I like this, cultivating, I was thinking, well, cultivating is digging up the ground to make plants better, so I have a good place to put plants. Well, hello? Cultivating is a great word, and when you look up a word, look up 4 or 5 different, even go back to the ancient, and the ancient definitions were pretty much along the line of study and explore a subject so that you understand it and can apply it completely. Isn't that neat? Because before you plant a plant, would you agree? You need to take care of the ground, you need to till it up, give it air, you need to give it compost, and then put a healthy plant in it for the plant to grow, which is a perfect example of how to create joy. So we have to do it ready on purpose and do it long enough and then continue doing it for the rest of life. It's not something that happens overnight. Anybody agree when you have a plant in the ground, after the first year or 2, you better take care of it and redo it, okay? So it's a constant, I'm even thinking about plants we have to water, okay? So it's a constant taking care of us, our soul, every day in some way, okay? Now, remember over here, the body needs some pleasure. So food gives us pleasure, all that stuff can make us happy, and then there's all this external stuff. And I don't need to go through all the wonderful ideas of things that create bliss for, happiness for us. Okay? but that's what we look for, and that's what we think will bring us happiness. So, joy, deep contentment, a sense of purpose, understanding my spiritual source, usually connected with love. Now, God is the language of love. It stays around, it's completion, and there's anticipation of the experience. Anybody agree you can have anticipation of joy? I want to feel contentment. I want to feel compassion. Okay? So, and joy doesn't wear out. When it's cultivated, it stays and continues being complete and whole. So, number one, okay, it's down here somewhere. Here it is. Okay, number one is find ways to be of service, express love to another human being. Anybody ever heard the term that there's takers and makers in life? There's takers and givers. Now, so one of the things we looked at, or you asked to look at when we did the list, was how do you create flow? And if you understand hydraulics or some of the mechanics of how fluid flows, when you have a new pump, if the pump is dry and hasn't been used, you have to prime it with water to get it started. Or that pump will sit there and spin all day and not pump water. You ever seen, if you take one of the old pumps, when the water drops down, you have to start pumping, and you can pump for 10 minutes before you get water out. So you have to do the work before you get water out of the hand pump. And the centrifugal pumps, even the electric pumps, once they start, they have to be primed and have water in them to start the suction and movement of water. It's the same thing with us, within our soul. So if you're a taker, if you look for what you can get out of life, what happens? It sits there and spins on you, and you wonder why things aren't working. So, number one way to start learning love, or to cultivate love, is to be of service. And being of service is being love with somebody else. Isn't it interesting? And those of you who volunteer know what I'm talking about. And there's times, frankly, I went through a heavy counseling session, serious for almost 6 months to a year. And this was with Jan, I don't know if you remember that. And one of the things she asked me to do, she said, Robert, you've been too focused on yourself. I spent so much time being educated, so much time reading books, that the flow wasn't there. Okay? So I spent time with her. She said, one of the things you need to do is go to a homeless kitchen and volunteer. There's one of the greatest things that I could do. I said, I almost cried. Because it helped me realize that I was so focused on myself, and here were people that had a lot more issues than I did. Okay? And you know what they did? I went and volunteered, and they put me in the kitchen cleaning pots. Or I learned how to run the dishwasher and scrape plates. And it was an amazing thing, because I had never thought of it that way. I had never looked at it. So all I can do is share my personal experience with you. And if you look at the law of attraction, the law says what you think about, you create. So if you're constantly thinking about what you can get, there's nothing there to get. If you see the flow doesn't go. But if you're looking at serving, if you're looking at what you can do to help somebody else, that's going out this way. Coming in this way is that what you need to do. See, to do something, you need support to do it. So once you start doing it, the means of helping you do it starts coming in. So it's like hanging around waiting for something to happen. Start something through service. Start something out of love, whatever the love is. Could be deciding to be nice to your next door neighbor. Could be nice with a smile. Anybody ever out shopping and everybody's running around with a crowd and place? All you have to do is smile and say, "You look great today." Now they might look at you crazy, but they're going to laugh inside, and they might smile. So it's a service thing. See, we are transmitters of energy. We receive energy and we transmit energy, and that's quantum physics. It's been well proven. So as energy flows, to keep the flow going, we have to have input, and the only way to have input is to create a vacuum allowing out to go. Now we're getting the law of vacuum, okay? So number one, find service, be nice. You might even go patch things up with family, okay, or whatever, because we're in that time of year. But it isn't a time of year, it's a time of year. See, what we're talking about is rebirthing the Christ in you. This is a celebration. It's a celebration of something that happened 2,000 years ago, but the major celebration is you. You are the Christ within, and the only way to activate that in your life and become miracle-minded is to create a flow, okay? Now, not everybody hears this. And does it matter? No, it matters that you hear it, okay? Next, are you ready? Number 2. Practice gratitude and appreciation. Make it a continual practice. It's conscious. These things don't happen automatically. We have to be conscious. See, you are a human being with choice of thought. The only thing we have is a choice of what we think. And the world wants us to think negative. In other words, we have a radar looking for problems. Okay, everybody there? And you know, whatever happens, it's unfortunate, but that's the way we've been trained. So if I'm looking for problems, what do I see all the time? Problems. And problems can make me worry and be upset and do what if. Okay? However, if I'm looking consciously on ways to add, to be thankful, to appreciate, and to be grateful, I'm consciously thinking of those things. Everybody there? So it's a conscious thought that, again, creates energy. Everybody see it? I want you to get this. This is, to me, it's like this stuff is coming through more and more. So it's a consciousness of gratitude and appreciation. Do you appreciate this group? Sure. It's amazing what comes here. It really is. And what shows up here. And it's just a daily activity. And you know what I found? By the way, we consciously work on our neighbors. Because people aren't used to people being friendly, agree? And there's only one way to start friendly, and that's be friendly. So it's really starting at that level. And sometimes it's easier to say something nasty than it is to say something in appreciation. And maybe even turning the nasty thing into, thank you for sharing that with me. I really do appreciate you showing me where I made a mistake. Or whatever it is. So it's conscious thought. Okay? Next, number 3, live your truth. Be your authentic self. Now, I gave Randy a plug, so I have to give Valerie one. So they're going to be doing January 8th and January 15th in succession. And this is an excellent book. It really is. And I'm looking forward to the class. Okay? And it says we are, when what we do is rooted in fear or feelings or inaccuracies, we are not moving in the direction of spirit. In other words, spirit doesn't go backwards. Spirit doesn't work from fear. So when you move in the same direction as spirit and your consciousness, that's when you live out of your authentic self. So who is your authentic self? Who is your Christ self? And what does your Christ self do? Well, you know, you might even call it your conscience. Okay? Within us is divinity. And divinity is always telling us what to do. So what does your true self tell you to do? And are you really being your true self? How honest are you? This is one for me, because I always want people to be happy. I want to keep people liking me. So somebody asked me, well, you know, do you like the way I look? Sure.
Good. This morning, good.
Good. That is good, yeah. Now, I am learning. I really am learning. And thank God she's flexible. But are we really honest with ourselves and with others? Are we really expressing who we are? Politically, who are you? Okay, now I'm not saying go around and become an activist, because then we're fighting other people. But the idea behind it is, who are you and what do you really believe? And what are you willing to do? If you really believe you're a child of God, and you really believe you have divinity within you, are you doing the work to create and to cultivate that divinity? Because it's cultivation. It doesn't happen automatically. Now, it has for some people in history. However, it takes time cultivating the ground of your consciousness and learning to change your thoughts consciously to a productive thought. Okay? So being your authentic self. Got it? And it takes work, because we have a tendency to kid ourselves. Okay? Anyway, excuse me, I do. I don't need to make it universal. Okay? However, you can take that in if you choose to. Next, support. I love this conversation. Support your front left row. Okay, now, your front row are people that are right in front of you all the time. Okay? I think of a basketball game, and there's this court, and people running up and down, and right on the front row are the supporters. Okay? And they're part of the game. They're screaming and hollering, go, go! How many people do you have on your front row encouraging you, telling you how good you are, and loving you, and appreciating you? And patting you on the back and saying, go girl, go boy. Okay? And they're the ones, if they're supporting you, they're the ones to support you. You know you need to support them. And encourage them and be thankful for them. Now, I don't know about your family, but my family and other families I'm aware of always have a naysayer. Yes? What's the matter with you?
I can't get him to turn around. Yeah.
No.
We got one.
Okay.
Everybody's got one.
They do. It amazes me. It really does. It does. And matter of fact, I still call them. I do. I say hello. And I worship, Merry Christmas, etc. However, are they on my front row? No. Anybody familiar with a term called peanut gallery?
Yep.
Okay, see, that's a gallery out there that they're talking and they're doing things. But you realize it's not that important. And there's people in my life that are here to support me. Now, if I don't have somebody on my front row, what do? Cultivate them. Look around. Who's really here to help you? Okay, do you think a prayer chaplain, if you call them with an issue, they're going to be a naysayer? No. They're going to appreciate you and pray with you. Now, wouldn't that be my front row? You're darn right. I wait for my call. So who's on your front row and who's taking care of you, and what soul are you taking care of yourself? Which brings us to the next one. You ready? Mm-hmm. Give up being your own worst enemy. Become your Christ self, talking to yourself. Now, I don't know about you, but self-talk's an interesting thing. You jerk, why'd you do that? Oh my God, he's never going to come around. I wish he really loved me. Whatever the self-talk is, and we make up these stories. No matter what I do, I can't get enough money from you. No matter what I do, people don't like me. I wasn't able to pass that test, so maybe I'm not smart enough. See, there's all kinds of things that our consciousness talks about. So it's, again, we're right back to conscious thought change into becoming your own champion. So going back to the front row, who are your champions? And then on the front row is you as your own champion. And the key to that is, number one, you're a child of God. My Bible says created in the image and after likeness of God. I am spirit, not body. Okay? And I'm part of divinity. So if I'm part of divinity or expressing divinity or however far you want to go to that, then what are my capabilities? And one of the things we're learning there, people have different skills. People learn differently. It's in languaging here, I have to be careful to use language from all three levels, which are, kinesthetic, touch, visual, hearing, okay, and using the sense system. Okay. Also, people are good at things and people are not good at things. Everybody has a lane. Everybody familiar with that? And your lane is to do this. And this is what you have special gifts at. Now, like I think about Larry, I don't play the guitar. I wonder why I don't. It's not my lane. Okay? Now, I have been interested in learning the bass, but that's another story. But you see, we all have gifts, we all have lanes to work in, and so we need to look at what we're good at and develop that and encourage ourselves and tell us how great we are. Okay? It's really fascinating. If you take a look at that, what are we good at? And really, really look at and consciously use what we're good at. And that's becoming more and more content. In other words, when we start fulfilling who we're really meant to be, we feel more content. We feel more in place. We feel more like, yes, this is where I'm supposed to be. Okay? Now, in studying historical events, historical people, you take a look at them. Go back and look at what they were talking about. And some of the greatest spiritual people in the world were people on a spiritual lane. But there were people over here doing mechanics, doing all kinds of different things, so everybody has their particular lane. Some people are good artists, some people are good writers, some people are good bakers, somebody are whatever it is. Some people are good at construction work. Some people are good at visualizing and creating new things. So everybody has their lane, okay? So what's your lane? And don't let anybody tell you that you're not good at what you want to do. So that is joy. See, when I am being who I really meant to be as a child of God, there's an inner contentment that, it's okay. I'm where I'm supposed to be. Anybody agree with things kind of just get together? It amazes me the pairing up that we do in our culture. Two people get together, and it depends. Today's world, it doesn't matter what sex you are, any of that stuff. Now, by the way, this thing is not correct. That song we sung this morning, because it was his and her instead of them, and all. So, just to bring in a new kind of thought. But the idea is, who are you, and what are you doing, and where are you going? And are you going from a sense of self-righteousness, that you're better than anybody else? Or are you going because you have a heart guidance saying, this is what I'm to do in life? It's called purpose, okay? So we all have our own issues. We all deal with things differently. Everybody's here to me differently, okay? And everybody has different thoughts. But the main thought is, the kingdom of heaven is within. And once I'm in that kingdom, am I content? Yes.
So one of the things I thought of in your talk this morning was when we were reading Practicing the Presence last Tuesday.
Yep.
And you talked about past, present, and future. And when you were talking about giving up being your own worst enemy, I thought, how can I defeat myself? And one of the things he said is when you go into, he talked about really living in the moment. Don't be living in the future, don't be living in the past. And he talked about when you go back to the past, you're reinstating what happened. Like when you go there, you're reinstating it into the future. And the way he said that really hit me about, oh my gosh, I really have to let go. And I have to not bring it, I have to leave it. I can't keep bringing it back.
Joel Goldsmith's Practicing the Present. See, if I dwell here in the past, and in other words, I've been good at this, I did this in the past, I should be able to do it in the future. I'm here. Okay? So, I want to be there. But I can't be there until I let until I move from here to here. So if I'm here in the past, I always create the past, because I'm constantly thinking about the past and the mistakes or the benefits or whatever I did well or messed up. So I'm here, and I'm rooted here. And I can't be content here because I'm dissatisfied. Okay? Up here in the future, this is called making things up. Okay? This is called vision, if you will. Living in the future. How can I create the future when in the present? In other words, I can only create the future from what I'm thinking in the present. Remember that? So the only way to create new is to be here in the present. Present with what I'm thinking consciously, not dwelling on the mind wandering and thinking about how wonderful I am or whatever. It's constantly thinking about who I am and who are you. The Bible says you're a child of God, which means when I think, I create. And so if I learn to be content with who I am, I'm creating who God wants to be. And that's not an end. See, not everybody gets that. And it's okay. It's okay. I am told the ancient wisdom tells me that everybody's going to get there sooner or later. And everybody's going to wake up sooner or later, so all we need to do is stay within our and bless everybody and love everybody just the way they are. Okay? Thank you, Ron. So I'm going to back out of this. Anyway, how do you get, you see, I'm saying I have the joy down in one way. And that was from my fundamentalist days. But joy is a word that we don't use. We use that word happy because it's a physical happiness. And unfortunately, a lot of us have found, and that's why alcohol and drugs and sex and all the wonderful things, because they're very stimulating. They do work on the brain and make the brain feel good. However, where does it go? Oh, come on there. So I love you, I'm done. Bye-bye.